Hello, you beautiful, amazingly delicious, expertly glazed 6-pack of the most perfectly shaped donuts I have ever seen in my life. How are you today? I know, I'm just going crazy. Anyway, before we start, really quick, I want to show you how a couple of pieces dried. So here is my oval Dutch pour. Let me move my paint out of the way before I spill it. Here's my oval Dutch pour. Came out very, very pretty. I'm going to resin that, and it's going to be a stunner. And then here is my circle Dutch pour, which can be displayed this way, that way, whichever way you want. So I'm going to resin that and get it put in the Etsy shop. It looks absolutely beautiful. So today, I released a video the other day and everybody went nuts because I used a different type of gold in my painting, and I haven't told you what it is yet because I wanted to make sure that it dried okay, and it's dried perfectly. I have the piece with a coat of resin on it right now, so as soon as that's cured, I will show it to you. But I'm going to now tell you what I was using in the video previous to this one. So I'm doing a turquoise series where I'm using a turquoise base, and I'm using one color in different shades that complement it, but it's striking. So last time I did a hot pink with turquoise. Today I'm doing reds. Now for my paints that I'm using the My Artscape paints, which will bring me to my next announcement. So if you haven't seen these yet, this is a case of 24 acrylic paints. I have a link for them in my Amazon shop. And for those of you that watch me all the time, I'm giving away some more sets of these. I have, I believe, 4 or 5 left to give away. I am going to do that in the next video after this one. I'm going to have to do it pre-recorded, the drawing of the names, because life, as you've known, has been changed drastically, and I just can't find the time to do it live. So I will be on camera. You'll see me drawing, and we're going to do that in the next video. So this is only for U.S. residents. And then I have a Loli Vefe gift card, the Loli Vefe mat, which I don't have right now. It's drying. But I have a gift card that is also only for U.S. residents. I'm sorry, that's not my policy. It's the company. It's just where they ship to. So, yeah. So here for my reds, I used the Scarlet, and then I used a couple of drops of the black in the Scarlet to make 3 different shades. So you'll notice this is the Scarlet by itself. This is the Scarlet with like 2 drops of black. And then this is the Scarlet with like 3 drops of black. Okay. So yeah, we're going to just put this down. I'm going to explain as I go so it doesn't take forever, because I know you guys all have busy lives. So here we go. Another thing I'm going to be doing in this video after I'm done with this is showing you how a couple of ways that you can mix up your Dutch pour paints, specifically for the Dutch pour, because we want to see fluidity with that type of pour. So it's different measurements than what you would use in a pour like this, okay? So my paints right here are mixed with 1 part paint, 2 parts Floetrol, and a couple of drops of water just to thin them out a little bit. It leaves a mound on the top. Okay, this is not what you would use for a Dutch pour. You'd want it to be a little bit thinner than this. So I'm going to do that at the end of the video. If you know how to do Dutch pour, you don't have to watch, but I know a lot of people are struggling, so I'm going to do that. So what was I using in that video, that beautiful, beautiful gold? Well, here it is. This is liquid gold. It's metallic permanent paint, and it's made by MTN. I have it listed in my Amazon shop. They sell gold, silver, and copper. And I absolutely love this stuff, okay? So I tested it. It did dry perfectly fine in with the wet paint. And I just love it. I use this in resin a lot too. It's just absolutely fantastic. So what are we doing here? What I'm doing is I've got a cup of blue, turquoise blue paint. Now this is a Blick brand that I'm using. And I've thinned this down with 2 parts water, 1 part paint, 2 parts Floetrol, and then water to get it to the same consistency as these little cups here. And I'm just going to cover the entire canvas with this paint. Now, one other thing about this paint that's different from the rest. It has 2 drops of silicone in it. Just 2 little tiny drops. And I'm going to, at the end, here also, right now, you'll see a link that pops up. But at the end also, and in the description, I am going to link a very thorough video of how to clean silicone off of a canvas and then resin it. I get a lot of requests for how do you resin an acrylic pour, whether it has silicone or not. And I get requests from people asking me to do a video. Well, little do you know, I have probably 5 videos in my timeline of videos in the past. So I'm going to link that video in this video for those of you wondering. Okay. Now, just want to get your corners good, and you do not need a lot of silicone to do this technique. I mean, you don't have to use the silicone at all. I just like the effects that it does, and I also like, well, yeah, that's it. Just the effects. And it's not a pain for me to clean it. I'm working on a level 3 canvas here, and it's taped off in the back. Now you can also try doing this with, now on the screen it may look a little darker blue, but it's definitely turquoise. You can also, if you want to try to do this without the silicone, mix your base paint with Floetrol in water as normal. And then your other colors, you can try to mix these only with water, no Floetrol, and just slide it over the top. It may work. It may not. It may not. I don't know if it'll work as good as this. It may. But you can give that a try if you don't want to use the silicone. The silicone that I use is, this is the best brand here. Spot On Treadmill Belt Silicone. I have it in the Amazon shop also. All right, so now that I have that down, I'm going to torch really quick. Okay, get rid of those bubbles, and here we go. So this series, this turquoise series, I'm doing what's called a minimal effect. So a minimal amount of paint, and I just want a nice big negative space area. See something in my paint here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a little bit of each color, just randomly, like so. Now there is no silicone in these colors. Okay, I'm also going to add into the mix a little bit of this really, really light teal. This is a Prima brand that you buy in Michael's. Just to give it a little bit of contrast there. These are mixed the same way as the paints I'm using right now. So again, the only thing that has silicone is this base layer. Now I'm going to put in the brightest, which is the scarlet. Again, these are all scarlet, but a few have black in them. So when you get those paint sets, you know, and you get all those colors, you could play around and combine them. You don't have to use them separately. You see me use primary elements a lot too. Same goes for that. You know, you can combine those colors and make your own custom colors. Alrighty, that should be plenty. Now, I'm going to add a little bit more of this. Okay, so now I'm going to add in I'm going to use copper for this one. This is what I love the most about this brand, the sound of it and the smell of it, because I'm a weirdo. So I'm just going to put a couple of drops because this will take over, so you don't need much. Just like so, okay? Trying to get rid of that bubble. Doesn't want to go. Now this is flammable, so I don't want to torch that because I believe it's flammable. It's pretty much like spray paint in a can. I believe it's like liquid gold leaf. But yeah. Once you mix it around and stuff, it'll be fine. As a matter of fact, it would be fine now. It's just always have a fire extinguisher whenever you work with a flame, no matter what you're doing. Even for acrylic pours with nothing in them. You never know when an accident can happen. All right, so now I'm going to take a palette knife I have. You can take whatever you want. You could blow on it. I'm just going to try to do something minimal, you know. Just kind of swirl it out or... And you're going to see all those beautiful cells start to form. Now I have this little silicone brush that my friend and co-partner of United We Pour, Lisa Wyatt, sent to me. If you never checked out her channel, check it out. She's an absolute doll. And don't worry about the drips. You could always scrape that off after. And now I think I'm going to find my turkey baster. And I'm going to blow in one of the areas. Just zoom you in a little bit there. And then I have another palette knife here. Pull that out a little bit. Just whichever way you feel like going. I mean, just let your juices flow, so to say. Now, one thing about this gold or copper that I'm using now, once you put it down and you move it around, like I would say after a minute, if you touch it, it will break up a little bit, but it gives a little texture to your piece also when that happens. So see there, I don't mind doing that. All right. Let's get rid of this. I got a hair on there. Get out of there. Would help if I didn't have red paint on my my palette knife. You just scrape it off and cover it up with a little more paint. That's all. Now again, you don't have to use the silicone if you don't want to. A lot of people don't like it because they don't want to clean it. I don't have a problem cleaning it at all. I put it right in my once this painting's done and dry, right in my tub it goes, believe it or not. And wash it right off. But I'll, like I said, I'll link that below and at the end. Okay, so that's it. That's my piece. I don't want to do anything. I don't have to tilt it because I don't have that much. I covered the canvas with a base layer, okay? If anything, maybe I'll just tilt where I just added that extra paint a little bit, or even stretch it out a little bit. But you don't have to because you added a minimal amount of paint. You can now just let that design rest and dry up. But this is these paints are absolutely beautiful, and you don't have to use much of them, so they last for a very long time. My artscape I'm talking about, and this here. Now see, this just happened and I don't like that because I went to tilt it, this line, unless it was there and I didn't see it. So let me just try to fix that a little bit. Okay. There we go. All right. So now torch it a little bit. And that will be a beautiful painting once it's dry and it has that resin on it. So I'll give you a quick view, then we'll do the Dutch pour white. Is that not gorgeous? And like I said, once the resin goes on it, oh, I'm just going to be in love. And I didn't have to use that much silicone, just the 2 drops. And it's just really pretty. It's very simple and very pretty. Okay, so for the Dutch pour, you want a paint that is going to move easily with your blow dryer. 99% of blow dryers are 1875 watts in the United States. I'm not sure what other countries, how they do that, but here it's 1875 watt. You can put it on low. You can put it on high. You have to know your own blow dryer, how hard it blows. If you're putting it on high and your paint's still not moving, it's because your paint's way too thick. So I'm going to do this to see exactly how much I need of what to do two different ways. Now I have Floetrol here. This is the normal way that I do a Dutch pour when I do it using regular acrylic paints. So I have Floetrol. I have this little cap that I got from Miss Judy to strain my Floetrol. I do have it in my Amazon shop. I absolutely love this thing. It screws right onto the bottle and it can stay on the bottle. The cap screws onto this once you're done. But anyway, you can strain your Floetrol right from your bottle. It's awesome. So what we're going to do here is I need to make 8 ounces of paint for my canvas. So normally what I would do is I would do this all just by eye, but for you guys, I'm going to put this cup on my scale. I'm going to bring it back to 0 so that it's no weight added there. I'm going to use 5 ounces of paint. I'm sorry. 4. I'm going to use 2 ounces. No, I'm going to make 9 ounces. I'm going to put 3 ounces of paint and 6 ounces of Floetrol. Okay. So, well, let's start with the paint first. I just want to see how much water I add into this to try to help you guys better understand. So that's 1 ounce of paint. That is a little over 3 ounces of paint. Let's take some out. Perfect. That is right on 3 ounces of paint, okay? So now I'm going to put in 6 ounces of Floetrol. If you don't have a scale, you can eyeball it. So however much paint is in here, you want to put double the amount of Floetrol in, okay? So what I'll do is I'll tear out my scale again to bring it back to 0. Now I'll add in 6 ounces of Floetrol. Almost there. Okay, close enough. It's at 596. So now I'm going to mix this together to see what my consistency is like. I know it's going to be too thick already, but we're going to do that anyway. Now, the rule of thumb with adding water, I looked this up online, and I've known it all along, but I wanted to make sure no more than 30% water can go into your mix. Now, I'm really, really bad at math, so 30% of 9 ounces. 1%. I'm believing it's 3 ounces of water, but I could be wrong. Okay, so now I have, even with all that Floetrol added in, look how thick this paint is, okay? This is no bueno. So let's tear this out and let's start adding some water, okay? I'm going to start with 1 ounce of water. All right, we're there now. So this is 1 ounce of water. I'm going to mix it in. And then I'm going to see what the consistency is like. So far we have 3 ounces of paint, 6 ounces of Floetrol, and 1 ounce of water. And I could tell you right now, way too thick still. So now I'm going to tear this out. Or actually, I don't have to. I could just keep adding. I'm going to put another ounce because it's just so thick. That's 2 ounces of water. I'm going to mix it up. Still way too thick. I'm going to add a 1/2 ounce this time. I was measuring that with the stick in there, I forgot. So this is now another 1/2 ounce. Still too thick. So now we're right at 3 ounces. And it's a lot better, but it could use a little tiny bit more. So I paused you guys for a minute. 2.7 ounces is 30% water for 9 ounces of paint. So I'm already over what they suggest, but I'm using a better quality paint, okay? Winsor & Newton. So I'm going to go for it, add a little bit more. Now, this is where the problem comes in with paints. If you're using a thicker body paint like this to do your Dutch pour, now, that's 3.5 ounces of water. If you're using a better quality, thicker brand, you have to use more product. There's no way around it. So, using only paint and water, I'm about to show you, is, I don't know. It could break down the pigments in your paints. So that is a lot better. Okay. Now that is what I would use for Dutch pour. So that's 3.5 ounces of water for 3 ounces of paint and 6 ounces of Floetrol. Now let's do just water and paint, because this is going to be totally different. So I'm going to tear my scale out. It's back at 0. Now again, I need to make 9 ounces of paint. So I'm going to start off with 50% water would be 4.5 ounces of paint and 4.5 ounces of water. So let's do 4.5 ounces of paint and see where 4.5 ounces of water gets us. Again, that is a lot of water. That is why people like to use the Floetrol as an additive to avoid adding that much water. Now, if you're using like an Artist Loft brand, It's a little more fluid than a better quality brand like Galleria. See, my paintings, as soon as they dry, they're resined. So my paintings are encapsulated, so nothing's going to affect them. But if you're using varnish and stuff like that, I'm not sure. So that's 5. Oh, we're supposed to do 4.5. Duh, Tammy. 4.5 ounces of paint we're going to get here in a second. 459. All right, there we go. So now let's tear it again. I'm going to start off with 1 ounce, nope, a 1/2 ounce, because this is a medium body paint. And if you put too much water in at once, it's going to start clumping up on you. And I'm going to show you that because people tell me that that doesn't happen to them. And that's bull. It will happen. You see that paint clumping already? And I didn't even start mixing it. Oh, all over the place here. See that big clumpy mess? It does. If you're using a cheapo craft paint, like something like a, I don't know, deco art or folk art, those you can put all your additives in at once, but for a better quality heavy body paint like this, no. All right, so you see a 1/2 ounce of water is not even going to touch this. So let's put in the other 1/2 ounce. Whoop. I'm splashing everywhere because I'm trying to rush. Don't want this to take forever. And I also don't want to pause the camera and do this because I want you to see exactly what I'm doing. So that's another 1/2 ounce. Here we go. Now we're up to 1.5 ounces. So I said 50% water. Was about where I think it would have to go. So we're at 1.5 ounces. I'm going to go up to 2 ounces. But look at the little amount of paint that we have here, right? The reason why people like to use Floetrol, because you just don't want to have to go through a whole thing of paint to do one canvas. So now I am up to and I did my math wrong, way wrong. Here is 3 ounces of water to 4.5 ounces of paint. I'm way over the half mark. Still needs more. Go to 3.5 ounces. I swear I am the worst in math. Don't hold it against me. So this is 3.25 ounces of water into 4.5 ounces of paint. That is a lot of water. And you see, I only have a 1/4 cup of paint. Now, what about when you, and it's still not as thin as this one, and what about when you have to do a big canvas? I'm going to bring this up to 4. 4 ounces of water for 4.5 ounces of paint. And it's finally there. Okay? But I also only have half of the amount of product. So this is why I like to use Floetrol. Okay? Because it gives me bulk. Not body, bulk. Bulk amount of paint. Now, in order to make this into this, I would have to add another 4.5 ounces of this jar, which is, that would be 9 ounces of paint. And that is, no, I take that back. I would have to add in probably another 2 ounces of paint, okay? Plus more water. And that would be 6.5 ounces out of a 16.9 bottle of paint. And this bottle was $20. So this is why I use Floetrol, guys. All right. So I made this here, this white paint. And since I did, why don't we do a pour quick with it? Actually, I'm almost out of time with my camcorder. So I love you all. We'll do that tomorrow. Check the description for information. I love you and happy pouring.